This is my favorite part, is telling people that we're live and they don't know we're live. So we are officially live. I think this is week number 6. Ian with Equity Warehouse as I try to fix my chair. I know it's been a little bit. I do have my Carhartt on. I'm competing with the Patagonia over here. It's been a long week. We had to get some year-end reporting done, 1099s, because the contractors want to do their tax returns even though the government's closed. Had to get the W-2s out to the employees, and most importantly, the investors needed their 1099 interest statements or 1099 INT. So that's consumed a bunch of my time. But luckily this week, I got a very special guest, Jack BeVier of the Small Developers Collective, also Dominion Financial. Got him in here. The Small Developers Collective is doing some really awesome things here in Baltimore, and they got a live event coming up on January 31st locally here in Baltimore. And if you're developing in Baltimore, you need to get involved with this organization. Jack, you want to give us a little background to how you got started in real estate?
Yeah, sure. Started in real estate. I started when I was 23 at working acquisitions and at Dominion Properties, and then have kind of just worn a lot of different hats over the years, property manager, project management, and now I'm a partner there and run acquisitions and kind of oversee a lot of the operation. So kind of working in the city and kind of being in the trenches, talking to contractors, checking out houses, driving through the neighborhoods has been basically what I've done all my life, or at least my adult life. So yeah, the Small Developers Collective is a nonprofit that got put together by some small developers, folks who were out renovating houses in the city. And it kind of feels lonely sometimes as a small developer. Like you feel like you're out there in your deal, you don't really talk to anybody else. Like frankly, you're just getting the crap kicked out of you sometimes by working in the city. And so it can feel kind of lonely, and that no one's really paying attention to all this energy and investment that you're putting into the city. And so that's something that we felt for a really long time. And, we'd go to real estate investor associations or go over to Wilkins Avenue and hang out with those guys. Cause if nothing else, you get like some sense of like camaraderie about like all this, same shared experience. But we never, all that said, we never really had a voice with the city. No one was talking to the public officials. No one has actually given feedback other than kind of just like one-offs to people in like housing or code enforcement and HABC. SDC, Small Developers Collective, got put together 2 years ago really to try to fix that, to try to give small developers in Baltimore, folks who are renovating houses in the city, a voice with the housing authority, with the mayor, with the city council, so that the impact that all of us are putting out there every day would finally have some voice in, not only the politics for what's going on at the city, the legislation that comes down the pipe, and kind of all the bureaucracy that we all deal with on a regular basis, to try to give like a cohesive voice to that and try to make it better. Right.
Yeah, no, it sounds really cool what you guys are doing. And I think some people need to know, if we take a step back, you were saying that, with Dominion, you started at property management, you worked your way up. I'm guessing property management was your least favorite thing to do?
No, I liked it. Yeah.
You actually liked it?
Yeah, no, I don't mind it. I didn't mind it. I mean, it's you need help, and you need like people of all different kinds to do that well, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wore that hat for a couple years and had a whole bunch of stories. It was fun. Yeah.
Right. So as you worked up, and so people know, locally here in Baltimore, there is a lot of stuff going on. Yes, people think there's blight, but there is a lot of good things going on. Now, you guys have roughly 500-600 units?
Yeah, 600, yeah.
Yeah, so you guys got 600 units, so you're out there all the time, and we got roughly 100 units, and we're out there in the city also, and it's like, how am I getting another vacant building notice when I've done everything that I'm supposed to do? And you're like, well, who do you reach out to?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's what the Small Developers Collective is doing to help, not change, but help maybe write some of the legislation to make it easier for us as developers, small developers that is, to actually make it easier to operate in the city?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of well-intentioned policies in place in permits and code enforcement to make sure that people aren't just like speculating and sitting on houses, and so that to get some to get some action in the city. But the problem with that is that there's a lot of unintended consequences to that, where a lot of people just get caught in that big net, who are doing the right thing,
right,
and who are out there just pulling permits and renovating houses and, and fixing up the neighborhood, investing in the neighborhood. And yeah, like it feels like, and the city's thanks for that is that you give me a citation for the grass being like 7.5 inches,
right?
Or I get a $50 citation for trash in the backyard. I'm like, well, I just drywalled the house today and my trash guy hasn't been there yet. Are you really banging me for $50 for that?
Yeah.
But all those things, like, if we go down to, and the appeals process for that is to go to the Environmental Control Board. Like, all right, I'm going to go take 3 hours out of my day and go downtown and sit to try to get a $50 citation abated. Like, no, you're just taxing me. That's all you're doing.
Exactly. I was going to go digging in the trash can. So recently this week, I got a $50 citation on one of our properties, and to go fight at the appeal process, you have to pay $15 to go appeal it. Well, screw it. I might as well just pay the extra $30. Yeah. My time's worth more than $35 an hour.
Yeah.
Or 3 hours of that. So now we're down to what, $10 an hour?
Yeah.
Not worth it. And then the other one we just got is we got a building citation for a property that we just bought, and they sent us the fee to board the property up prior to when we owned it. And they said, we'll just get the building permits and register it, and then it'll go away. I'm like, dude, that's not a good enough answers. But these are all things that you guys are working on.
Yeah, exactly. So these are the kind of things that we're working on. We're trying to change the perception, frankly, from within city government of, and explain like, hey, there's a lot of great activity out here that's happening, and you should be supporting that activity, not just hitting with a stick all the time.
Right.
Because that's really what it feels like.
Right.
So they're trying to give that, but one person writing an email doesn't really get anything done down there. Sure. But when we can speak with a collective voice as a group of people who buy 2,000 houses a year in Baltimore City and are investing millions and millions and millions of dollars every year, we've gotten, frankly, like it's been really fun actually the past 18 months as we've kind of like gotten this off the ground, because like the reception down at the city, HABC and DHCD have been fantastic. And I think we really truly are making headway on those points. Right. We're not all there with like the $50 citations don't still show up, because they still do. But I do feel like we're moving in the right direction. And if we're not part of that conversation, then we're just going to be the whipping boy for it.
Right.
So I feel it's something that it's important that we're part of that conversation.
Right. And now one of the first things that you guys are actually able to help get changed in your first few months of having this collective was the you were telling me about the property registration process, where you were saying everybody was, frankly, bitching about it, that it happened in August through September. Was it August through September? August at the end of the year?
Yeah.
You were saying they wanted to jam it down the throats even faster, but you guys were able to reach out and say, look, you got to slow this down. We need to talk about this.
Yeah. So the rental licensing, new requirement that I'm sure everyone is aware of, I think under normal circumstances, that would be something that we all heard about in like July. Right. And it would have been this terrible legislation that was introduced. We'd have read it and said, that is like, you must be crazy. That's going to be absolutely, terrible for the city. Not that it was a perfect piece of legislation. And I think that the timeline to roll it out was way too short. But they really, the politicians really wanted to move that forward. But the thing that we were able to do in there is that we were involved in that conversation back starting last January.
Right.
So the piece of legislation that would have been introduced had we not been part of that conversation, I can tell you, like, in all sincerity, would have been much worse than what we ended up with. I feel like we ended up with something that's not perfect. It's a little bit difficult, but it wasn't just dumb.
Right.
And so, that was a real kind of tangible thing that I saw last year that we participated in, and we were able to, get that legislation written to something that was, at least practical.
Right.
They still rolled it out too fast, but at least it wasn't as bad as it would have been. Frankly.
Well, at least they know they can go back to you now and say, how's this working? Because now they can have a voice of, like you said, people that have 2,000 houses plus in one group and say, what do you guys like? What don't you like? So I'm hoping that's something that they'll start to utilize going forward.
Yeah. I think it definitely is. Like, we've seen that we're getting calls now on, hey, someone's thinking about, so-and-so council person's thinking about introducing legislation like this. Like, what do you guys think about that? Right. And then that gives us the opportunity, frankly, to rally the troops before it happens.
Right.
As opposed to, we've always been on our heels in the past, where it's always like happening to us. now we're actually being able to say, hey, if you guys introduce something like that, we are rallying the troops because that is not going to work for this, and this reason.
Right.
And they're listening, which is the thing that's been fantastic, and that it's been better than we expected.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. And I think Mr. Braverman at the top city level, he has a great idea of what's happening in the city. He runs the housing department, and I see that this event that you guys are having, he's going to be there. Who else is going to be there?
So Janet Abrahams is the new director of the Housing Authority of Baltimore City, which oversees all of the public housing and Section 8. So they just split those two apart, those two organizations apart. It all used to be in one, but now it's Braverman oversees Department of Housing and Community Development, which is like permits and code enforcement, and a lot of other stuff too, of course. But and then Janet Abrahams is the new Housing Authority of Baltimore City director, and so she's going to be there as well. And we've also got 2 or 3 folks each underneath them who are, really the folks that are getting stuff done that'll also be there. So we're really excited to have them, hear what they got planned for 2019, and then kind of most importantly, have the opportunity to provide feedback on what's been going on the past year and what we'd like to see happen in 2019, the things that are, that are good and the things that are not so good still. And this is that opportunity to have that one-on-one dialogue with the people who are actually making these things, making these decisions.
Yeah, hopefully the head of the water department's there, because I'd love to talk to him or her, because my God.
No, he doesn't return our phone calls.
Oh, yeah, no.
BGE neither.
Yeah, BGE's another one. That's a whole nother.
Those are long-term goals.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to get involved with this organization for those exact reasons. But I think anybody, as you start to grow and you start to have more exposure, sure, you have 2-3 houses. I don't want to say it doesn't hurt, but screw it, just pay the $50, right? But then you pay $50 across 700 houses. I mean, I can't even do that math because it's so big. It's what, $35,000?
Yeah.
And if you just let that stuff go and not actually push back or say, hey, we need to work this out, we need to come up with a better idea, I think that you guys are onto something there.
Yeah,
so.
and that's really the thing behind it, is like the vast majority of people who are renovating houses own a couple houses. So for each single one of us, it's not worth it to take on this like behemoth of a problem. But together though, we speak with enough voice that we're, that our concerns are being listened to, and I'm really optimistic that we're going to be able to make headway.
That's awesome. Yeah, so that's going to be January 31st from 12 to 2. I think you need to sign up and get a ticket over at Vinny's Cafe. I think that's off Holabird Avenue. It's a place I'm thinking of. They have huge slices of pizza. I don't eat pizza anymore, but it's really good. I'll post a picture and a link to the event down here, and make sure you sign up to go to that. We'll go a little bit off topic. What do you see for 2019? We were just talking about market and all that good stuff, and city, county, whatever county you want to go to. What's your feeling on what's going on now in today's marketplace for residential SFR guys?
Yeah. So like the flip margins, I think, are pretty tight right now. Like it's very, very competitive to get a flip deal. So you really have to have some kind of angle to find something off market for it to make sense. Rental prices are up too. I mean, we've got, this situation where there's less and less foreclosure inventory. So there's less and less supply of distressed real estate in good areas. And then an increasing demand from real estate investors. Like it's popular to be a real estate investor again. And so those two things just mean that margins get squeezed. So it's, it's a competitive time right now. Margins aren't as great as they have been in the past. I think people are still, getting along, but I don't think anyone's making it rain right now.
Yeah.
So, we're kind of hopeful, and I'm really curious to see kind of what happens with the economy. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now, and we'll see if that turns into a softening of housing prices. I'm really interested to see what happens in the spring, because, I mean, at least for us, like our flips, the showing activity really fell off a cliff in like August.
Right.
And, we've been getting them off, but like last May, there was like demand was fantastic. It was like on the market Friday, going Monday. And so I'm really curious to see what this spring has in store. Yeah,
and I think with the flips, August was right around the same time the last Fed raise went in. And I don't think people that are buying a primary go, well, the Fed's raising the rates, so I'm going to wait 6 months to buy something else. They look at it and say, I can't afford that mortgage payment anymore. I can't afford a $500,000 house. I want to buy a $300,000 house. I'm just going to wait until I can afford the $500,000 house. That could be some of it. when you guys do flips, you do a lot of starter home stuff or higher end, or where are you guys at in the marketplace?
Yeah, we do a lot of like 175 to 350, like that middle of the road.
Yeah, so people are definitely looking at their bottom line budget. Okay, I can afford that. It's the same as rent or a little more than rent, but I'm buying a house, and I think that's what curbs people a little bit.
Yeah,
and you're in the rental game, and people are always going to rent houses. People always need houses. And you guys got a larger portfolio than most. Does your having a larger portfolio and with the interest rates and the spreads getting compressed and everything, is it easier for you guys to continue to buy, or is it actually harder because you have more exposure, or how do you guys view that?
Yeah, so no, it's harder because everyone's cost of capital is going up right now, and the houses aren't. The yields only get better if either the houses get cheaper or the rents go up, and wages aren't going up, so rents aren't really going up.
Right.
And so I think it's the same thing. It's like just the bank. Your cost of capital is higher, and what you're getting from the property is coming down right now. And so, I think that spread is like, it's getting tighter. It's harder to be in that right now than easier.
Yeah. It looks like somebody asked the question. It looks like that's somebody from inside of our office asked the question. But what areas in the city are you guys concentrating on, and what's your opinion of the opportunity areas?
Sure. So we buy all over the city. So we like to be in nicer neighborhoods just because leasing demand is there. But of course, you got to get a good enough deal so that the yield is good. So we're really all over, like all those middle markets. Like we're trying not to be in the really lowest end areas because we have a hard time leasing the properties and then keeping tenants there. So even if it looks good on paper, we end up giving all the money back on the turnovers.
Turnovers, evictions, no pays, all that good stuff. Everybody forgets to add that into their pro forma.
Yeah, everyone's got the property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, but none
it'll never go vacant. I'll have a tenant for 10 years, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So. We're all over the city, but in kind of trying to be in better neighborhoods to have that like long-term tenancy duration focus. The opportunity zone, I'm really interested in that. I think we actually already invested in one on the west side of downtown. A guy who we lend money to was doing a deal over there, a multifamily deal on Howard Street, actually. Okay. And let us throw some money in because we had some capital gains. So, would we be in that deal if not for the opportunity zones? No. So I think it is attracting capital to areas easier than it would have been otherwise. Yeah. I think it's an interesting tax advantage, but it's not enough to make a bad deal a good deal. Yeah. I think it just makes a marginal deal a good deal, or a good deal a really, really good deal. Yeah. I'm hoping that it's as transformative as everyone, as the media is showing right now. Yeah. And I think you can help in a lot of areas. I guess my fingers are crossed.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I was just talking to Jason Balin about this Wednesday night, the opportunity areas, and he was saying he thinks it's geared more for the institutional guys that just have tons of capital to dump tons of money in it. But I guess we'll see how it trickles down to us smaller guys, and hopefully it works out for you so I can pick your brain about it later and see if it's worth it.
There's a couple rules actually that I think could be really interesting, but they haven't been published by the IRS. I've been following it really closely. Right. There's a couple rules, particularly on depreciation and how depreciation is recaptured at the end. I don't want to get too technical right now, but that could make it really, really interesting for single family. If you're already buying in areas that are opportunity zone census tracts, it could be a really big advantage. But the IRS hasn't been given clarity on a lot of the rules. So I think it's a TBD. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's Jack's opinion on the opportunity areas. You got anything else that you want to?
No, just look forward to seeing everyone at the events. 6212 Holabird Avenue on January 31st. It's going to be from 12 to 2 p.m., so it's lunch. To sign up, go to smalldeveloperscollective.org, where you can register there. And it's $50, which includes lunch, and we look forward to seeing everyone there. So thanks for having me on, man. Really appreciate it.
No problem. I'm going to post everything on there. I should be there at that event as well. Not that anyone wants to come see me, but if you're involved in the city and you're doing things in the city or you want to get involved, these are the people to talk to. These are the people that are overseeing what's going on. And, you got that headache problem, or you want to know what's going on at a larger scale, where the next spot to go is. This is potentially a good event to be at. So hopefully we'll see you guys there.
Yeah, let me give you one more plug. Oh, and the Small Developers Collective is volunteer board run. So if anyone is like what they've heard and wants to get more involved, again, go to smalldeveloperscollective.org. Our email is on there, info@smalldeveloperscollective.org. Just send an email to them saying, hey, I want to get more involved. And one of the board members will be in touch to reach out to you, because we're always looking for folks who want to contribute.
Sounds awesome. All right, we'll catch you guys next week, and maybe we'll see you at the meeting.
Thanks.
Yep. Oh, I got to end it first. Now everyone's going to